So I want to talk to you for a second about manipulating the welding rod. And I got it focused on the 3G position because I was asked what position with welding, stick welding, and flux core welding should I practice on to make sure I get down. And if I get this position down, I can master all the rest of the positions as far as the flat, horizontal, and overhead. The vertical position is important because most companies, if you're looking to get a job, to get started, get your money up, a lot of companies deal, especially industrial companies or structural companies, deal with penetration. So they even have you do complete bevels, or to have a backing strip on it, or it'd be pipe that you're doing, or some type of cylinder, things like that. And it's real common. And one of the common plate tests that they use on a lot of shops is 3/8. Um, when you're dealing with a lot of heavy stuff, they'll do a inch test. They'll go on a skip and go straight to the inch. That way you'll have what they call a unlimited test. So when you do an inch weld test on stick or flux core, that's considered to be a unlimited. When you do a multi passes, and it was a groove, so it's showing a couple levels of skill, showing how you tying in, showing how you cleaning it properly to making sure there's no slag inclusions. It's showing that your temperature was set properly, that everything was fusing together properly. Shows that you stack your beads right. And they look at, a lot of times some places don't look at the cosmetics of the last few beads as much. They might say, well, that's kind of look iffy, but they're gonna most definitely run it through that test. So, it's not gonna lie at all. So keep that in mind. But I had a follower of mine send me a project that he was having some tough time welding, stick welding, and it was on. He said he was using 6010, I believe, and he was welding on some rusted material, and he had to do a patch on this rusted material. And he said it took him longer than he wanted to be there on this one particular project, but it took him several hours to do this. And once I seen what he was doing, I asked him a few questions as far as the heat, the cleanliness, and I could tell that it was some burn through, and he was like, yeah, because the metal is so um, thin, and then it's rusted too. It was causing them some issues. So the first thing I noticed was I said, okay, well, when you're doing a patch on rusted metal, when you're using stick or flux core, you want to make sure, try to clean it as best as you can. You know, the place that you're gonna be welding to. Like, say if you're doing it over the hole, you probably want to go at least an inch or two over the spot where you're actually going to be covering, and then try to clean it the best as you can. I know when you're in the field, sometimes it is what it is. I mean, I get it because you work on. If you're working on concrete washout pans, sometimes still have concrete in it. Sometimes it ain't cleaned properly, or it's just what it is. Debris. And so the best thing we do is try to do that. But keep this in mind: if you're patching it with at least an eighth inch plate, at least an eighth inch or 3/16 or whatever they have you patch it with. The main thing is to do. Sometimes when you're dealing with this, you have to cut your heat down lower than what you would normally burn the rod. So say if you're normally comfortable with burning a 332nd rod at, let's say, 90 or 91, 92. Say you comfortable with that. Well, when you're dealing with some metal that might be rusted and it might already be insufficient, you want to cut it down just a little bit lower, and it might cause the weld to, the puddle. You still can control it as long as you keep a tight puddle gap between, what I'm saying, when you washing it. But I want you to make sure you look at the metal, the thicker metal, and wash it on to the existing metal. Like, start, make sure that the weld is being, the majority of your heat is focused on the new plate that you're putting in, and washing it over, making sure it ties in. And don't spend as much time as you will on the new plate. Like, when you hesitate, like I would say, like, keeping your mind like a um, 1-2. That's how I would say starting out. So say if you was on the the good plate and you was like 1, 2, 3, you hit that plate 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, or you hit it 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, whichever way, if it's real thin. So you just want to kind of get that rhythm in your mind where you're not spending as long as time on that plate because it's still tying in. And you remember when you're doing things like that, you're just patching the hole. Like you're just patching the hole to make sure they can haul something without it leaking, spilling on the ground. So when you're dealing with repairs like that, sometimes that's all you're doing, or you're trying to put something in that holds something up. So when it's not dealing with a lot of pressure and you're just doing a patch, you want to try to just keep that in mind. And I think it will help you a lot when you are doing different little service calls like that. But I just wanted to say, learn to master that 7018. Um, I I got to use the 7018 stick welding. To me, it's like it's like the old westerns when they like to have their 6 shooters. I consider a stick welder. He's like an old 6 shooter welder. He learned how to master. He can pull it out. He can fast draw. And you know how the outlaws and the and the riders used to say, you know what I mean? They be like, you got to be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. So you want to be handy with it. You want to learn how to master that rod. Like you want to master it. You want to get comfortable with knowing what you need to do on what situation. Like you need to instantly see certain thickness. Okay, I got to do this. I got to cut the heat on this. Okay, I can have the heat on that. I can have it higher on this. I can do this. So, and then mastering your angle, making sure you're not getting slagging and making sure that, because a lot of people get caught up with the drag and the pulling. You can do both. I have did both in past tests. So, but what you do, you don't want to change it up in the midst of your process. So, say if you starting, like you got your like this, and then as you go, you get to doing this. That you don't want to do. You see what I'm saying? You want to keep that same consistent all the way up. See what I'm saying? You don't want to change that. So when you change your pattern, that can cause you to get slag inclusions, cause you to get things you can't see, and you might because the way that some of it works, that slag is hard. So if it gets caught up in a spot, and especially if it's not hot enough, you're not going to burn it out. So you have to clean it out, trim it out, or cut it out, or gouge it out, or whatever the situation is. So that's just something I just want to bring to your attention because, like I say, somebody brought that to my attention when I was sent that photo, and I just feel like we just should spend some time on mastering that because mastering that 7018 rod or the 6010 rod or the 6011 or 7024 or 6013 or whatever rod you're using, man, it will always be able to make you money in the field. Hold on.